Hi, and welcome to Into the Shadows with Regina and Teresa. Tonight is Friday, March the 18th. We're going to open the show. We have a great guest tonight, Frank Lee. He has a paranormal talk radio show called Paranormalities and Ponderings.
Well, hello there, Regina and Teresa. How are you tonight?
Doing good. How are you doing, Frank?
I'm great. I'm honored to be here, and I appreciate you having me on the show tonight.
What's your preference? Do you like to be called Lee or do you like to be called Frank?
I just go by Frank or just whatever comes to mind as long as you call me when it's time for dinner.
I wanted you to tell everybody who you are.
I'm the founder and director of the Casper Paranormal team, and that's actually the Central Alabama Society for Paranormal Investigation and Research. Now, none of the team members, including myself, can really spell all that or say all that, so because we're not that bright, so we just go by Casper for short. And I've always been fascinated by science, history, and the unknown. I was the weird kid in second grade and third grade who is, while everyone else was reading the little fairy tales and everything else, I was the one reading about the Bermuda Triangle and Easter Island and UFOs, things like that. And, I was always fascinated by it. I had a near-death experience as a child that piqued my interest even more. And, then it just continued. And, I remember being in fourth grade. Everybody else was, reading all the kiddie books and things like that. And I'm over there reading scary stories to tell in the dark and, the Catherine Tucker Wyndham books, things like that. As it kept going, as a teenager, when I was about 15, I started, that's when it really set in. I got my first Lloyd Auerbach book. I read ESP Hauntings and Poltergeist, the Parapsychologist Handbook. And, you can imagine the reactions I got from my friends who seen me with that book at 15 years old. But, I read it and I was hooked. Lloyd's writing, which a lot of people refer to that particular book as the Ghost Hunter's Bible, and for good reason. And at that time I had no idea who Lloyd was and, what parapsychology truly meant, things like that. But I was captivated. I seen this mixture of science and history and the unknown all coming together. And, from then it went, Lloyd Auerbach, Dr. Barry Taff, Dr. William G. Roll, even Harry Price. And, the more that I studied these things, the more that I had to learn. And it kept going till finally, around 1999, just a kid right around 21 years old, went on my first investigation. And I could have written a book about my first investigation, actually, called How to Not Investigate the Paranormal. But I'm saving that for a later date. But I went out there, I did everything you can think of wrong, but it was amazing. I got my first EVP and I was hooked, and I've been doing it ever since. So this year makes 17 years that I've been at it and just loving it.
From your pictures, you don't even look that old.
Well, I see what I do is I just use Photoshop on all my pictures, and
no, and that's all right. Paranormalities and Ponderings, are you still doing that show? Because I know that I had listened to it a couple times. It was a really good show.
Well, thank you. Yes, ma'am. I'm still doing the Paranormalities and Ponderings every Tuesday night. I really enjoy it because, for one, teaching and helping others is really what I love most about the paranormal. I had rather educate than investigate, to be honest. With the show, it puts me in such a spot because I can bring these people on who've had these experiences and who have researched this topic or that topic. And, not only can I learn from them personally, which I have learned so many things since I've been hosting, and I'm sure you can relate to that from your guest, but the listeners tune in and they go away with this new knowledge. And paranormal radio is a great thing. All of these people out here hosting shows, that I don't think they really appreciate what a service that they do for the paranormal community by sharing this knowledge.
Just like you, I was kind of the odd one out, but I also had a near-death experience to where I'm at now. And I do want to ask, you're talking about your near-death experience, and I'm glad that you brought that up. I don't know if you're willing to talk about something like that.
Oh, sure.
Well, can you explain a little bit kind of what happened to you?
Absolutely. This was when I was about 6 years old. I went into the hospital. I was going to have a very routine eye surgery, which of course this, things 30 years ago were so much different. What they considered routine then was an overnight visit, and where now it's a couple of hours. But I went in. It was going to be an overnight. They're going to do the surgery, let me go the next morning, and when they gave me the anesthesia, they found out that I have a condition called malignant hyperthermia. And what malignant hyperthermia is it causes a severe reaction to general anesthesia. And this reaction was so severe that it caused me to go into shock and into cardiac arrest. Well, my heart stopped, and I was flatlined for about 6.5 minutes before they were able to get me resuscitated. And during that time, I was able to see as I was kind of hovering over my body. And I know this sounds very cliche, but I remember seeing everything that was going on in the room, seeing them working on me, and seeing them in a panic, and even one of the nurses making the remark, "I cannot tell his family out there that we've lost him like this." But I remembered all of that. But what was really strange, and something that makes mine seem a little odd for most people, was I remember seeing other people in the operating room. And the way I described them when I was woken up was as being in old clothes. I could tell they were not supposed to be there. They were from a different time. And I remember there being several people just kind of standing there. I didn't see the tunnel of light or, talk to any of my relatives or any of that. But I just remember seeing that. And then next thing I knew, I was being woken up in the recovery room. And it ended up being what was going to be an overnight. Turned out to be me being there for 7 days. And that was how they found out that I couldn't have the general anesthesia and everything. So it was quite a scare for everyone.
You're bringing me back to mine. I was probably a little younger than you. I was 3 when mine happened. But everything you said, it's not cliche, because I experienced the same thing that you did. I didn't see the people in the old clothes. I actually split and went in one room and got to go also into another room. I would like to know, because of your near-death experience, did it open up to you psychic abilities and empathic and clairvoyant abilities in you?
Well, this is the way that I typically answer that question, because I can't say for certain that it did, and I can't say for certain that it didn't. Now I've never been, I've never really classified myself as being a psychic or having mediumistic abilities or anything like that. Now, on the other side of the token, I have kind of had I've had kind of an uncanny ability to read people, and I do think it did open up some sensitivities. But the odd thing about it is when I investigate, I'm so, and I think this, it may have, if I weren't so logic and science brained, I think it might have opened up more for me. But I'm so logic driven that I think that probably blocks out some of it. But no, and I do believe that those abilities exist for people. But I think it did have some effect on me though, and me being able to read others and just I don't know, kind of know certain things.
There's a theory, okay, on some near-death experiences, how people talk about how they went through the tunnel and the white light. I did not see this. I was 3 years old. I did not experience that aspect of the near-death. Did you?
No. I didn't see the white light. Didn't see any kind of tunnel. I remember staying for the most part in the operating room. I don't remember this part of it, but I did say, I did tell my parents and my family after I woke up that I remembered flying out the window. So did kind of have that, but no, I didn't see the tunnel and things like that either. Of course, there's the popular theory that, of course, some people say that the tunnel and the bright light is the optic nerves firing and the synapses firing off from the loss of oxygen to the brain and all of that. But, I'm not 100% convinced on that. Well, of course, if anyone can't tell by my accent, I'm in Alabama and, right in the heart of the Bible Belt and everything. And things can be a little behind the times in places like that. Or, and I think that's what it amounts to is, people have their beliefs and they should and everything, but you still have to be open-minded. I believe that I think something that a lot of people miss is that the unknown is called the unknown for a reason, and that's we don't have a written guide for it.
I want to go ahead and bring in my co-host, Regina. We do this together just so kind of to bring you up to date on us. I'm located out of Florida, and she's located out of Texas. We're best friends, and so we decided to do this show. Of course, both of us have experiences, and we're both psychics, and we both kind of deal with the investigation side, and I founded my own paranormal group over here. With that being said, I want to bring her in. I know that she has some questions also for you, and I don't want to hog it.
Well, hi there, Frank.
Well, hello there. How are you tonight?
Oh, pretty good. We have a big storm brewing. I'm sitting here in my office looking out the window and hoping that I don't lose electricity while I'm talking with you. But but anyhow, I'm so glad though that you were able to share your experience, and it was so similar to Teresa's experience that she had with the near-death experiences. But I wanted to go in a little bit different route with my questions, and I wanted to talk about actual investigating and the equipment we use on investigation. I kind of want I guess to get an idea of what your favorite equipment is as far as the best things that you think that can be used for, getting the best evidence. What do you think that those are?
Well, I could classify this down to three things. And the three most important things that you can have on any investigation are a notebook, a pencil, and that squishy gray thing between your ears. and I think that before people spend a lot of money on equipment and everything else, buying all the things they see on TV, first they need to learn to effectively use those three things on an investigation.
I agree with you. The first thing that people see me bring out is my notebook and my pencil. I mean, I had that out even before it's in the seat next to me in the car. I'm driving to wherever I'm going, or I have it, out jotting things down. Of course, for me, it's a little different because things are coming to me as we're going to a location. But then as we get there, there's so many things, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I mean, you're going to get, smells, and you're going to see things, you can debug things almost immediately when you walk into a place if you're paying attention to your surroundings. So those are things that you can jot down. But could you maybe tell people what your process is when you're going into a investigation?
Well, I personally believe that the most important thing we can do is before we go, find out all we can about the people that are having the experiences, and of course the location, and try to put together a good picture of what the scenario is before you get there. And I'm not saying make presumptions about the activity, but just try to learn the situation and the general information. Then when you go there, be observant. Don't go into the place with the intention of finding a ghost or whatnot, but go in with the intention of explaining what's going on. And I say explaining instead of debunking, but because I think when you say debunk, you imply, it's one of those words that kind of implies a certain amount of fraud or deception on the part of the client or the location. So that's why I say explain, because we don't just want to tell them that their activity is not paranormal, but we want to explain why it's not paranormal and what actually is happening, if indeed it isn't paranormal. But as you go in, you want to assess everything. You want to take those handy-dandy EMF meters that everybody loves so much and don't use it to try to find a ghost, because we can't measure a ghost. If we could, the paranormal would no longer be called the paranormal. But look for signs of EMF fluctuations from bad wiring, routers, even equipment nearby, anything that might be causing it, and look for it in different settings. Look for direct EMF fields, look for radiation, things like that. Check carbon monoxide levels. And something really big that I emphasize on is check for black mold and different type of airborne particles or things like that in the air. And you want to check mold, the carbon monoxide, and get an audiometer, or what's better known as a sound meter, and walk through the location. And as you walk through, see if you pick up something. And not trying to, and this is not about EVP. This is trying to find sounds that might be coming through, such as maybe humming from electrical equipment or different things like that. Because sometimes those sounds can cause people to have what seems like a paranormal experience. That there's one famous case to elaborate on that. Vic Tandy from Coventry University, where he worked in the lab. He was one of the professors there. The lab at Coventry University was in this little small area, a little dark corner of the basement. Everybody swore that the lab was haunted. They seen shadows out of the corner of their eyes. They felt like they were being watched. They had a sense of dread when they were in there, and all this stuff. Well, come to find out, it was actually a fan that was off kilter, causing a vibration to come through at a certain frequency just below human hearing. So they couldn't hear the sound, but it was still affecting them. When they repaired the fan, magically, the paranormal activity went away. So always check for sound. It's very important. But when you rule out all of these things and kind of assess the situation, then you can actually start your investigations.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've been in a couple of places that and I like the fact that you brought up the sound, in different places, because I was on a team a while back, and I want to tell this little story real quick because it kind of goes along with this, but they swore that there was a howling noise that they were hearing every evening, and they lived in town, so it wasn't like they were out, in the country or something where there would be animals that would make those noises or stuff like that. And anyways, after investigating and staying there through those hours that they thought they were having a haunting and hearing things for ourselves, we determined that there was I guess 2 cats. It was mating season. And there was and it sounded like, it really literally sounded like people, like a moaning or howling noise that people would make. And so anyways, so our determination was that they need to get some, cages and trap these cats and take them to the pound. But anyway, so sounds, you just never know what it is bringing those noises through. So I like the fact that you brought that up. But my other question is, because I was reading your bio and learning a little bit about you, and I noticed that you have 2 teenage daughters, and
yes.
And I have a teenage daughter that is very interested in the paranormal and wants to. I've taken her a couple times during the day to places that I have cases that I've been working on, but I have not taken her on a full-fledged investigation yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just wanting advice from you, or what is a good age that you could start taking your kids into these situations and teaching them about the paranormal?
Well, it of course depends on, each teenager seems to be on a different maturity level, and you're going to be, each case is going to be different. I started taking mine on investigations. Now they're right now they are 18 and 15, and I started letting them go with me on some cases when they turned 14. Now, not all of the cases. If it wasn't one that I had been out to and done a preliminary investigation on, and checked to make sure there wasn't anything crazy or anything like that going. But it was really good having them there, because what I would do is set up the DVR systems, and I would let them monitor the DVRs and the monitor mics and handle the radios, things like that. And by them watching what was going on, they got to learn a lot about investigations. And my youngest daughter, she's not into it all that much. She likes to go every once in a while. Now, my oldest daughter she is into it every bit as much as I am. She loves the science of it just as much as I do, and see her this being something that she does for a long time. Not sure about my younger daughter yet, but around 14 seems to be a good age to start kind of training them, or at least it was for me.
Yeah, right. Lauren is 14 right now, and she was probably 12 when I took her into a situation, into a place that I was investigating, and but I didn't let her stay for the full investigation. What I kind of wanted to do was her to walk through the home and see what she felt, and if she felt comfortable being there, and that type of thing.
Right.
And but now it's getting to the point where she, when are you going to take me on a full investigation? When am I going to be more involved? That type of thing. So, and she's going into high school, so I thought, well, it's probably about time. She's that interested in it, that we need to, start letting her have a little bit more responsibility when it comes to doing the investigations and stuff. So that's good to know, that you, that's about the perfect age, or she's right at that age where, they seem to be maturing a little bit more, at that age, like going into high school. So I'll probably let her go on maybe the next one. But I think I'm looking at our panel, and I think we have a question for you. Teresa, are we getting questions for Frank?
Yes, we are. I do have someone on hold. Regina is calling in, Frank, and she would like to ask a question, so I'm going to go ahead and throw her in the room.
Okay, sure.
Regina, hello. You're on and you're live. You want to talk to Frank? Go ahead and ask him a question.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Regina.
This is the other Regina with her R-O-G. But I just wanted to ask you, I know with the ghost hunting becoming, there was a period where it got really popular, and it's still up there, but just wondering, with all the investigations that you've been on, have you ever run across somebody that, tried to fabricate any...
Oh, yes.
Yes, that's what I was afraid of, yeah. So can you tell us something that somebody was trying to fake you out, or?
Yes. I'm so glad that you brought that up, actually, because it is something that does happen, and every investigator needs to be aware that, people have different motives. Some people may have some slight activity going on and want to embellish it because they see all these shows like Paranormal Witness or A Haunting or something like that, and they think, hey, I can, if I can get my story out there, then I can make some money off of it. That's something that seems to be a big motivator. Something that I ran into several years ago, a case we handled in Virginia. Someone was trying to, and they were fabricating every bit of it. We actually caught them in the act, but they were trying to get out of the lease. Their thing was they wanted to say that the place was haunted. Their landlord didn't tell them about it, and because of that, because he didn't tell them about this disturbing situation, as they were trying to say, he violated their lease, or he violated the agreement, and they were clear of the lease. You run into things like that, and there are people that just want to see if they can fool you just for the heck of it, and it's entertainment for some people. It's kind of like they were talking about at the beginning of the show about them going to an investigation, and then they've invited the cousins and the best friend and the grandkids, and the whole family's over there and all their friends, and it's like a block party wanting to tag along. Some people just want to see it done. So that is something to always be mindful of, is to a DVR system is one of the best things you can get: a DVR system and monitor mics. And the reason I say that is not for capturing ghosts. I don't look at those for being something that you're going to capture the Holy Grail apparition walking across or something like that, but rather to be able to know where everyone is at all times and monitor what's going on, what's being said while while the investigators are in this room. What's the client saying in this room? And things like that, and that helps well document it. So not only you can disprove if something like that's going on, but if you catch something truly paranormal, that is great validation.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I would be hard to keep my temper if I found somebody was trying to trick me. But I know that people, like you said, people just are trying to make money, or they're trying to get on TV. Some people will do anything, like marry somebody after they've dated them for 6 weeks. Just to be on TV. They'll do anything, to get on TV. And I know this is a really popular subject right now, and I was just curious if somebody tried to trick you. That's interesting. I don't know that Teresa or Regina have had that yet. I don't think my sister has, but anyway, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, you're quite welcome. I'm glad that you asked that. That was a great question.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, it was, and I'm glad that you brought that up, and I did have something like that happen where I was on an investigation with a different group, and somebody did trick evidence, and because of the DVR system, they had cameras, and they were able to catch that person faking the evidence.
Yes. I always try to set up the command center outside of the building that's being investigated. If they have a garage, it's okay, but I prefer for it to be, completely away and, a good 20 feet away from the actual investigation site to kind of avoid contamination, keep everybody out of the way.
I don't know about your team. I'm a sister team. I developed my team after being on another team for a while. One of the things that I took with me was I loved that at the end, sometimes if there was like a certain family member that was being targeted, like we did, we brought that family member in and did a session where we tried to use her as a trigger object, to see if we could catch anything else because she was the target.
Right. That always is something good to try because, it's kind of like this. If you're having a certain person or 2 or 3 people that are experiencing the majority of the activity, then what you want to do is recreate that event that seems to trigger the activity, not possibly remove the catalyst. So you definitely want to have them nearby. And something else that I recommend to everyone is, because most of us now, on most investigations, use a command center. Take an extra laptop and do evidence review in real time. Or if you can get 2 laptops, if you've got a big enough command center set up, have one person reviewing camcorder video while the other reviews audio, and have every 30 minutes or so, have the investigators come through, copy what they've captured on their cards so far to the laptop, and go ahead and start reviewing that. So you can kind of see the results of your investigation while it's still ongoing. And that way, when you leave there, you may not have all of the data gone through, of course, but you can kind of have a good idea of what's happening. And you can leave there with the clients having some answers as well.
Well, that's a very good idea. And we used to do that with the Wave Pad on audio with voice recorders. When we take them in, we'd go ahead and download them, and we'd let 2 or 3 investigators go in at a time, and no more than that. And so the others would come out and they would go ahead and start listening to the voice recorders. Another question I'd like to know your opinion on, but what do you feel about provoking, and what to you is too much provoking?
Well, I personally am against provoking, and it's for the same reason that I try to look at everything from the most logical perspective that I can. That's just hardwired into my brain. And if someone comes up to me, and if they just come up, they got a chip on their shoulder, whatever, they push me, start yelling at me, they're not going to like the response they get from me. However, if somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, Frank, let me talk to you. You got a minute?" Then I'll talk to them about anything they want to talk about. And I think that we need to go in, we need to be respectful in the fact that, even though it might not be where they should be, as far as they're concerned, that is their space. And we're the ones entering into it, and we should act like we're guests there. So, I've seen people provoke to get a response if they were having a slow night or something like that, which I don't condone in any means, because at the end of the night, the simple fact is we get to pack up and go home. But what kind of situation are we creating for the clients when we leave? And we have to be very mindful of our actions, because if we make the situation worse, then they would have been better off never calling us to begin with. So I think we should always be respectful of the clients, their property, and any spirits that might be there.
I found that when a client is watching that stuff going on, if they're sitting out there and they're listening in on the command station, a lot of times that scares the crap out of them. Like you said, we're leaving. They're going to be alone, and they're going to turn the lights out. And that's terrifying. So a lot of times before we leave, I like to set boundaries and sit and talk with the spirits and say, okay, look, it's okay, make a little noise. That's not scary, but hey, let's not throw anything. There's different ways of getting attention. And that kind of tends to help the client. What would be something that you do at the end of your investigation for your client to help them get a good night's rest after you leave?
Well, I try to explain as much to them as I can about what we've found, and I try to stress to them the importance of not being afraid, because fear is such a negative response, and it's such a powerful emotion. The fear response is very primal, and it creates anxiety. It can lead to depression, and something else is, that fear-induced anxiety, any type of anxiety, and especially anyone who suffers from anxiety knows what I mean when I say this. It has more physical symptoms than mental or emotional symptoms, and it can cause irregular heartbeats. It can cause people to feel like they're having a heart attack, or from a panic attack, if anyone has experienced those. Indigestion, nausea, ulcers, body pain. I mean, there's just myriad complications that can result from letting fear get the best of you, and it's so important that we stress to the clients, don't be afraid. This is your home. Be respectful, but not fearful. And we need to be careful how we word things too. The power of suggestion, even inadvertent suggestion, can be detrimental in some cases. Like teams that throw around the word demon or evil or things like that. If not everyone is as level-headed as other people, And some people are very superstitious, some people are very religious, and we have to keep all of this in mind. If we go out there and walk about, that's why I don't even mention those kind of words. Because once you plant that seed, it's very hard to repair that damage, and that's the last thing that you want to do is, before you investigate a situation, before you're absolutely 100% sure, have them thinking there's something negative there. And, that's something that, I guess that's one of my pet peeves.
That is like ours, too. We hate it. When you're leaving and you can see the fear in someone, it's not good. Me and Regina both, when people throw out that word, demon, you've got good spirits and you got bad spirits. You got spirits that are feisty, just like a person's personality, and that's how we explain it. Sometimes you're in a bad mood, sometimes you're in a good mood. Everything happens for a reason. If they're throwing something, maybe it's their way to get your attention for them to communicate.
Right, absolutely, and that is an analogy that I use often. Is people say, well, this object moved or something like that. Should I be afraid? And I'm quick to tell people, no, don't be afraid. If there's something there, it's probably just trying to get your attention for whatever reason, and that is such a good way of putting it. And as you described, different people have different personalities. We have good days, we have bad days. And if you look at it that way, it's only logical that it would be the same way for a spirit.
Hi there. Well, I've just enjoyed listening to you, Frank. Giving your perspective on everything, because everybody has a different opinion. I've pretty much agreed with everything that you're saying. Kind of similar to the way that we run things when we do investigations and things. I just want to thank you for being on and kind of giving people insight into what you do. And I look forward to. I haven't gotten to listen to your radio show, but I'm definitely going to. So I just wanted to thank you for being on.
Well, I certainly I appreciate it. It's been an honor for me to come on, and I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting with both of you.
I did want to thank you one more time, and then we're going to invite you to come back on again. We'd love to bring you back and talk a little bit more about investigating and some of the other things that you do, because I know that you're in the process of writing a book and stuff. That's what your bio said and everything. So I would really love to get you back on and maybe talk a little bit more in depth with you about those things.
I've enjoyed it, and just any time that you want me back, just let me know, and I'll be honored to come back.
Thank you. And do me a favor, plug yourself real quick. Give everybody out there your website and some information that they can go ahead and look you up and listen to your show.
Absolutely. You can find most of the information about me on our team's website. It's CasperParanormal.org. That's CASPIR paranormal.org. That will take you to information about the team. It'll show you the information about the radio show. All of that. We're on Facebook, and you can look up my page. There's a page. It's facebook.com/FrankLeeThinks, and go to it, and it shows a lot of the stuff that I'm addressing in the book, more of a science nerd type page. So it's good, and there's always Google. Look up Frank Lee Paranormal on Google, and it'll tell you pretty much everything I've done for the past 20 years. Thank you again. Have a great night.
You too. And we thank you very much for listening into our show tonight, and we thank Frank so much. He was a great guest. Blessings to everybody. Be careful if you're out there doing any investigations. Always pray and protect yourself. Good night.
Good night, everybody.